この国のおすすめです。ごゆっくり。
Shoot. Well, now I'm hungry.
Welcome back to Nerd Cuisine. This time I thought I'd tackle the tall cake from Kino's Journey, The Beautiful World. And to recreate its height and kind of multi-layered appeal, I feel that a Mille crepe cake would be best. For which we're going to need some crepes, shock of all shocks, I know, some pastry cream, and some whipped cream for topping. And I'm going to start with the pastry cream since that can sit in the fridge overnight for like up to 3 days. Pastry cream itself is pretty simple. We're going to start with 2 eggs, to which we're going to add 2 cups of dairy. In this case, I'm using whole milk, beaten. And then in a saucepan, 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 of a cup of cornstarch, a pinch of salt, and that's it. Set the stovetop to medium heat and whisk everything together to prevent clumping. Whisk in the milk and egg mixture, and then continue to whisk, and then as the mixture heats up, start whisking almost constantly until it reaches a boil and thickens, which should take about 10 minutes. And once at a boil, adjust the heat so that it bubbles gently, and then continue to cook until it coats the back of a spoon, like so. Take off of the heat, and then stir in 2 tablespoons of butter, cubed, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Once this is all incorporated, you can put it through a sieve just to catch any bits of scrambled eggs you might have created. And then put plastic wrap directly on the surface before refrigerating. I'd like to make this crepe cake as tall as possible, so we're going to be making a whole mess of crepes. And for that, we're going to need 6 eggs, 3 3/4 cup of milk, 6 tablespoons of butter, melted, 3 cups of flour, all-purpose, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 3 pinches of salt. And then give it a blitz in your food processor until everything is nice and wet, and then place it in the fridge for an hour so that the whole thing can hydrate. While the crepe batter chills, you can start making the whipped cream. In order to make the whipped cream have a slightly longer shelf life and increase its pipeability, I'm gonna mess with the formula a little bit, starting with 2 tablespoons of room temperature cream cheese, which I'm going to cream, before adding about 1/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. To that, I'm going to add the 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, and then whip until I get stiff peaks. Now that the crepe batter is hydrated and the pan is warm, and has melted a small pat of butter, take 1/3 of a cup, pour it as centered as you can do, give it a little bit of a swirl as you thin it out, and then once it's barely set, flip it. Then let the pan just kiss the other side before retreating to a cooling rack. You want just kind of the barest of browning. Now I'll see you after I make all the rest of these crepes. Later. When you're done making just a disgusting amount of crepes, it's time to assemble. You could cut all the sides down, make them all the same size, kind of make it a prettier, cleaner presentation, but I don't want to waste food, so it's gonna look a little shaggy. Start with one of your larger crepes for the bottom of this monstrosity, and then smear on a thin layer of pastry cream, and then add another crepe on top. Repeat, and repeat, and repeat. And then pick another nice looking larger crepe, which will serve for our top. Once you have a nice thick stack of crepes, you can top with your whipped cream. I'm trying to imitate the kind of pipe design they showed in the show. There we go. It's alright. I'm a scientist, not an artist. And this dessert does best if it gets a chance to chill in the fridge for a little bit, just to let everything kind of soften and melt together. Just look at all those layers. Like a parfait, or an onion, or an ogre. Unfortunately, unlike Kino, I don't think I could eat the whole thing, so I will partake in a modest slice.
this is a crepe cake. If you like crepe cakes, you'll like this one. I don't know. I like it. How do I describe a crepe cake? It's taking two dessert components, crepes, pastry cream, and putting it together in a way that's like technically interesting, and yet it's still in a form where it feels very simple. It's good tasting crepes, good tasting pastry cream. The flavors are very light. It's a very light tasting dessert. It's sweet and simple and not overwhelming, tasting of fresh cream. So if I had to rate this, I would give it a number of total layers divided by 3 out of 10. I hope that doesn't equal greater than 10. A challenge for the comments. How many layers are in this crepe cake? Get it right, and then you are the only one who knows what the final rating is. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see on Nerd Cuisine, Let's Cook, or any of the other weird shows I make, let me know in the comments. And if you try making this dish at home, also show me a picture, because I really love the way the layers look. I'm trying to stroke the layers. Yeah, good layers. You think the job where you just sit and eat and then talk about what you're tasting would be easier.